because you're poor. But people, all of this happened to me because I accidentally went on television and then accidentally had a new career as a famous minor television personality. And people frequently ask me, what is that like, and how did it happen, and everything else. So I decided, rather than tell people all the time, I would put it in my book and then tell them all the time. So I'm going to read to you a portion of the book now on that very subject, entitled How to Be a Famous Minor Television Personality. Now, if you listen to the radio, you may have heard an abridged version of this essay read on This American Life. But I guarantee you that version had barely a tenth of the information on the subject of Battlestar Galactica that you are going to hear right now. Until recently, my only experience with Los Angeles had been a visit to Universal Studios as a child. This had to have been before 1985 because I remember they still had the Battle of Galactica ride in operation. As I am sure you remember, right, national treasure, living memory of us all. As I am sure you remember, ma'am, this was the portion of the Universal Studios tour when the motorized tour tram that you were riding left the back lot of the studio and somehow ended up in a space station. Once inside the station, robots called Cylons would shoot lasers at you. Then two men dressed as colonial warriors, wearing space helmets, would bound out screaming and pretend to kill the robots. Now, I want to be clear. Your rescuers on this ride were living men, not animatronic robots or creations. Actors, I suppose you call them. And they would rescue humans several times a day, day after day, in total silence, because all of their dialogue was played over loudspeakers that had been recorded years before, presumably by other better actors. And it struck me that this was a very interesting kind of torture for an actor, and it amused me very much as a child and still does. They closed that ride not long after my visit to Universal Studios because the TV show it was based on was canceled, and because weird live space mime shows went out of fashion at amusement parks. I may have been the last to see it, and after the ride was over, I sat down on a nearby bench to ponder and absorb this historic moment. And that is when I was approached by a grown man pretending to be Charlie Chaplin. Now, I suppose it is some people's dream to be Charlie Chaplin, or even just someone dressed up like him. But even as a 10-year-old, I found Chaplin's work to be pretty cheap and maudlin. He was no Buster Keaton, to my mind, and as Chaplin approached, I considered saying so to his face. But there was a problem. At this time in my life, I had very long hair. This was an affectation, a stupid, horrible affectation, but one, I would argue, less stupid and horrible than the affectation of dressing up as Charlie Chaplin. But this was not the problem. The problem was that because I was a small child without a beard or mustache, people routinely thought I was a girl. And this would lead to occasional embarrassing situations, such as double takes whenever I would go into the men's room, or people convinced that my name had to be Joan Hodgman, or being expected to kiss Charlie Chaplin on his white-powdered cheek. All of these things happened to me, all of the time. And so the moment came, after some predictable cane and bowler hat shenanigans, that Charlie Chaplin sat down next to me and indicated that he was ready for me to kiss him. For obvious reasons, his expectations went unspoken, just as mine were perfectly clear. I did not wish to kiss Charlie Chaplin. But, let's just say, they didn't call him a little tramp for nothing. He waited me out. It was clear that I was powerless in the situation. It was clear what was going to happen. And what can I say? I just let it happen. So that was my introduction to Los Angeles, a traumatic, homosexual, silent comedy gateway. At the time, I had no idea why someone would expect a complete stranger to want to kiss him on the cheek just for showing up and sitting down, but now I understand, because now I am on television. Sometimes I am asked, how is it that you became a famous minor television personality? And my answer is always the same. I went on television. Simple as that. Specifically, I had written a book. I was asked to go on a popular fake news program to promote that book. I thought that would be the strangest experience of my life until they asked me to come back and do occasional comedy as a contributor, which I did. I was then asked to audition for a series of advertisements for Apple brand computers. I did audition for them because I thought it would be a fun adventure, given that I would never in a million years get the job, and then I got the job. It's your pretty typical, mundane, overnight Hollywood success story. The only thing that makes it unusual is that it actually happened more or less overnight, and largely by accident. And as a result, I am older and fatter and more wall-eyed and tweedy than most people embarking on a television career. I'm not being modest. When you are on television, you don't just see the pose you perfected for yourself in the mirror, you see yourself from all angles, clearly and cruelly, as if you were in the body of another person. Here are some of the words that internet blogs have used to describe me. The pudgy John Hodgman. The chubby PC. Round-faced John Hodgman. The stout John Hodgman. The DC played by Tubby John Hodgman. Portly John Hodgman. And Cutie. The last one came from a website that includes a regular feature that maps celebrity sightings in New York City. In this case, the anonymous tipster reported accurately that I was taking the B train south from my observatory on the Upper West Side, where I then lived. Now, here's what happened from my point of view. I was just riding the train. I had been wearing my brown jeans and brown winter jacket, an outfit that a neighbor of mine had said made me look like a UPS man. I was just sitting there, deciding never to speak to that neighbor again, when a woman got on the train. She gave me a quick double take, as if I were a girl in the men's bathroom. Then a man came on the train and did the same thing. Now, which one of these two was it? Which one of my fellow travelers was this anonymous tipster? I will never know. Neither of them seemed drunk or insane, and yet one of them must have been the one who told the internet I was a cutie. Whoever it was, they went on to note also that I looked like a UPS man. So here is a fashion tip from the stars: no brown jeans, ever. After that, these unexpected brushes with fame, in which unexpectedly I was the famous person, started happening with some frequency.